Hello guys, welcome back to the next episode of this Sprinter van conversion. All of the services that we bring into the van, whether they be water, gas or electric, we're going to need an external connection, and that means cutting a hole in the outside of our van. We've got quite a number of them to do, and we're going to take full advantage of this nice weekend that we've got here. We're having a little bit of sunshine, which is a bit of a rarity in England, and we're going to get all the holes cut in the outside of the van. You can see here, this is the water one we've already done. So let me show you how we did it. Now we've got a number of different things that we need to cut into the outside of the van. We've got the inlet for the refillable gas cylinder. We've also got the hookup inlet for the electrics. We've got the inlet for the water tank for the cold water feed. And we've also got a vent to cut in for the bathroom extract fan. Now, you'd think somebody would standardise on these sizes, but every one of these holes that we need to cut into the van for all these different devices is a completely different size. So I know I could probably drill a pilot hole and cut these out with a jigsaw, but cutting a very small circular hole with a jigsaw is a bit of an art. So what I've done is I've got myself some of these hole saws. These will match exactly the size of the hole that I need to cut in the van. I've measured all these diameters and I've made sure that these hole saws are nice and snug. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut all of the holes in the van. I'm going to use a combination of Sikaflex and some mastic tape to weatherproof all of these, and then self-tapping screws in most cases to hold these flanges nice and tight to the skin of the van. And then if need be, we can come round afterwards and put a small bead of silicone around these just to make sure that absolutely no water is going to get into our van. Okay, let's mark out where we're going to put these on the outside of the van, and let's get to drilling some holes. Using the inner part of the gas inlet, I've just marked where I want it to end up on the inside, marked a centre hole. I've just punched that with a centre punch just to give me a position for the drill to start. I'm going to drill a small pilot hole from the inside out, and then I'm actually going to drill the hole from the outside in, but I need to know where it's exactly located, so a small pilot drill on the centre is going to tell me that. Let's go and have a look outside. That's the pilot hole you can see there come through the van. I've also marked just two little small marks here and here within the confines of the hole that we're going to cut, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill another two pilot holes here, and then I'm going to put some screws into a piece of scrap wood on the other side of the van, because I need something a little bit thicker to drill into, because I know from experience if I just go at this with the hole saw on this very thin sheet steel of my van, it could wander, the pilot hole could enlarge, and this actual hole that I end up with is going to look really scrappy. So I'm going to lock it down with a couple of screws into a bit of wood at the back, and then that way that pilot of the arbor of that hole saw is going to stay a lot more steady and still, and we should get a nice cleaner cut hole. Okay, we'll go and cut a scrap of wood, get a couple of screws, and we'll screw that piece of wood in, and then we're ready to cut the hole. So we've just put two screws in there into the block of scrap wood on the other side of the van, and now I'm just going to drill the hole. These will be within the confines of the hole, so all of this piece will be waste material. That should be it, mate. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it worked really well. Yeah, it's nice and clean, isn't it? So there's the sacrificial bit of wood that we had on the inside of the van. They're the two screws that were holding it on the inside, and that was just making sure that that pilot hole didn't wander on us. It's just given the drill a lot more substance to drill into to stop it tearing out of that van, and then it also makes sure that this cut is nice and clean. This is the shroud for the gas filler. You can see now that fits in there right nice We'll make sure that we've got a bead of silicone around there before we tighten that up. Now what this cap's got is it's got two little tabs, one at the top and one at the bottom here. So we need to file a little small slot at the top and file a small slot at the bottom, and then when that engages in there, that will just stop this spinning, so that when you come to fill up and put the nozzle on at the gas station, that shroud is not going to spin in the hole when you just engage the nozzle. There we go. And then that's just enough to stop that rotating. I've just filed these raw metal edges just to take any burrs off, and then what I've got is a tin of Hammerite metal paint, white, and I'm just going to touch up those raw metal edges just to protect them from going rusty. The good thing about Hammerite is you can just paint it straight onto raw metal, you don't need to use a primer. It's worth just taking the extra time just to do these things properly, because it will pay dividends in the long run. Your van will last a lot longer. I'll just let that dry for a little while and then we'll come back with some Sikaflex and we'll fix the filler cap. I'll put a bead of Sikaflex around this nozzle. I'm going to insert this into the van and then tighten the screws up from the other side. Clean the squeeze out off with a cloth in a minute. The manufacturers do recommend that this gas connection is fitted below the level of your floor in the skirt underneath the vehicle. The reason for that is if this connection ever did leak, then gas would escape into the inside of the vehicle. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a fully sealed gas enclosure for the gas bottle, and this connection is actually going to be inside that enclosure. So if this did leak at any stage, it would only leak into the enclosure where the gas bottle is, and then there's a vent through the floor. LPG is heavier than air, so that will drop out of the vent through the floor. And then I'll make sure that this is all sealed so that nothing can get into the skin of the van, and it's all sealed into this enclosure where the gas bottle is. I've cut the hole for the water vent in the side of the van with this larger hole saw. This is 86mm. There isn't a backing ring with this water inlet, it's just an outside flange and it's held in place with these 3 screws. But I'm not really too happy with that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of this plywood, about 6 inches square, just mark the centre. I'm going to cut a hole with the hole saw, the same in this, and then I'm going to use this as a backing flange on the inside of the van. The screws will go through this faceplate, through the steel of the van and into this piece of wood, and then as you tighten the screws, this will sandwich those 2 pieces together and pull it up nice and tight. It'll just give it a little bit more support than just relying on the thin metal sheet steel of the van. So as you can see, we've cut a nice neat hole for the water inlet. That now just fits in there, and then what I've done is I've just centralised that and just marked with a marker pen where these screw holes are, these little black dots. I'm just going to drill some pilot holes and then we can screw it all together. So the thing with metal drills, they always cut better when they're going slower. I've got a bead of Sikaflex all the way around this flange, and I've also put some Sikaflex on that backing plate on the other side. Okay, so now we've got the electrical hookup box, and I'm going to put that in this panel. There's a natural fold in the van at here, so I want it to be just below that line. So I've basically offered it up where I want it to go on the outside, and then I've marked the midway point, and also I don't want it to go any further that way, so I've marked the midway point there. So that's where I'm going to drill my initial pilot hole. I did put a centre punch there just to stop the drill from wandering. And then same as before, what we'll do is we'll use this little block of wood screwed in from outside just as a backer for when we drill the circular hole. Okay, so we've got our nice neat hole cut. I've just filed off the rough edges, and now we just need to mark out for the screw holes. This is our socket. Let's just make sure it's level. We'll get our little pilot drill out again, drill those holes. We'll deburr those from the inside, and then we'll put some hammerite white paint on that, on those raw edges. This electrical box comes with this foam gasket, and it is just like a bit of sponge. I'm not really happy with that as making that watertight, so we're going to chuck that away, and I'm just going to use the trusty old Sikaflex. Put a decent bead around here, and then that'll be plenty to seal that on the van. Far better than that foam gasket. I just can't honestly see that holding back any water, to be honest. Whereas I know once this stuff's gone off, there's no way any water's going to get in here. Brilliant. Right, we'll put that on from the outside. Wood on the inside, screw through. Job's a good one. Okay, pop this in from the outside. We used exactly the same method to secure the shower extract vent. If you don't feel comfortable fitting the gas connection, I would always recommend that you use a professional. In either event, always make sure that you get the installation checked by someone who's certified. Hope you find these videos to be useful. Please do leave me your questions in the comments section below, and I'll make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers.